Ooh. Oh yeah. Oh, girl, me want fi hold you, put me arms right around you. Girl, you give me the tightest hold me ever get seen in my life. Girl, me want fi just squeeze you, put me thing right around you. Girl, you give me the tightest hold me ever get seen in my life. Oh, behind them try and me no care. Me take it anytime, anywhere. In the square, so me no care. Long as a woman, I will be there. Me want a girl who take care of me. Me want a girl that wine for me really good. I make me feel it. Show me that you can girl. Girl, me want to hold you. Put me arms right around you. Girl, you give me the tightest grip me ever get seen in my life. Girl, me just want to hold you. Put me thing all around you. Girl, you give me the tightest hold me ever get seen in my life. Like a fast pipe on the boy, room, 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 room. Girl, on the back and she a boom, 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 boom. Give me the back of one and the fat one, come, come. But the rappers then ask me, I get my boom, boom. She ain't there with the control. I move for her, she want in her soul. She said more and more, and still she grown. And still be multiple, more got me what feel, yeah. Put me arms right around, yeah. Girl, you give me the tightest hold me ever get seen in my life. Girl, me just want to hold you. Put me arms right around you. Girl, you give me the tightest hold me ever get seen in my life. Like
All I want to say is happy birthday, Jasmine. Oh my gosh, girl, you are 30. I am so proud of you. You are so beautiful, so talented. And I just want to say happy birthday and God bless.
Hi, Jazz. Happy birthday from your big brother. As we remember the time with Michael Jackson in the background, all those extraordinary times that we had in undergrad and these past 10 plus years I've known you. Happy birthday. Love you.
Details at truck-hero.com.
The party's over. Get on in here, Elizabeth. Tell them people to go home. Tell them people to go home. Oh my God. Tell them people to go home.
But around one time me I move towards my boat. Still the boat that control. I'll move for you, she wants in her soul. As it's a more and more, and still she grown. Now still me multiple, more got me one thing more, yeah. Put me things right around, yeah. Girl, you give me the tightest hold me ever get seen in my life. Girl, me just want to hold you. Put me arms right around.
Everybody looks beautiful. Give yourself a round of applause.
Hold me ever get seen in my life. Girl, me want fi just squeeze you, put me thing right around you. Girl, you give me the tightest hold me ever get seen in my life. Oh, behind them try and me no care. Me take it anytime, anywhere. In the square, so me no care. Long as a woman, I will be there. Me want a girl who take care of me. Me want a girl that wine for me really good. I make me feel it. Show me that you can turn. Girl, me want to hold you. Put me arms right around you. Girl, you give me the tightest grip me ever get seen in my life. Girl, me just want to hold you. Put me thing all around you. Girl, you give me the tightest hold me ever get seen in my life.
I welcome everyone here, and I'm so glad you are here today. You are going to have a great time. Hope you're having a great time so far. The first performance we have is from my brother and best friend of 12 years. It's been a long year. Yeah. Everybody give it up. This is Jared Robertson, one of my best friends, one of the first people I met when I started college in Southern. And he plays piano. He is a teacher, and he's also an ordained minister. One of the greatest friends I'll ever have, loyal and really a brother to me. Tonight we're gonna have a gospel song written and produced by Jared himself. It is entitled Always Have. Okay, we're gonna get you queued up.
A thousand marks I missed. Your crosses, it's finished. Not one sin have I missed. You love me, you always have, you choose me, just as I am. You love me, you always have. When I say you're absent, and I feel abandoned, you stir in the stillness, and all I know is this. All I know is you love me, you always have, you choose me, just as I am. You love me, you always have. You love me, you always have, you choose me, just as I am. You love me, you always have. Oh, you never stop, you never stop chasing, you never stop, you never stop wanting me, never stop, you never stop calling my name. I'll never know how much you never stop, you never stop chasing, you never stop. You never stop wanting me, never stop. You never stop calling my name. I'll never know how much you love me. You always have, you choose me, just as I am. You love me, you always have. You love me, you always have, you choose me, just as I am. You love me, you always have. You love me,
just as I am. You love me, you always have. You love me, you always have. You love me, you always have.
Me to do this? Okay. From African prince to a Mississippi slave. This is the story of, and I need my husband to say his name.
Abdur Rahman Ibrahim.
Then, okay, another click, another click, another click, and yet another click. Maybe I may put too many clicks in there, and another click. From Timbuktu to, Fouta Jalon. I'm gonna maybe
From
let.
Timbuktu to Fouta Jalon.
Okay, we'll let him speak. So Prince Abdul Rahman Ibrahim Ibn Sori was a native of Timbuktu. Now he's going to say I'm saying it wrong. And his grandfather was the king. Okay, go ahead. He's going to let him take over. That's what he does all the time.
The name Abdur Rahman means servant of the most merciful.
Oh, okay.
Ibrahim, we know that person as Abraham from the Bible. Ibn means son of Sori.
See, he's my assistant. And so his grandfather was king in Timbuktu, in that region. When he was 5, they were Muslim. At this point, I'm gonna, because we're kind of freewheeling this. So, okay,
So
let him take
in
over.
632
Oh my.
AD, Arabs left the Arabian Peninsula. They removed the Byzantine Romans out of Egypt.
Okay.
And also out of North Africa, which was at that
I might just let him do it because he don't take over.
the Romans
Okay.
and the Vandals. And
Okay,
the
let me just let
Arabs
him.
and the black people of Africa became the Moors. Below the Saharan part of Africa,
He loves doing this.
Muslims would come, they would trade with indigenous tribes, they would live under protection of a king. And if they had something that the king wanted, Arabs were surgeons and the like. If the king converted to Islam, then the tribe would generally convert to Islam. So at this particular point in time, the tribe of Abdur Rahman Ibrahim, they were Muslims for probably about 300 or 200 years at that time.
Okay, see, I didn't even know he was going to say all that, but it was very educational and useful. So when the prince was 5, his father was sent on the mission to conquer the Sosos, which were a tribe in the area of Fouta Jalon. His father went, conquered, was successful. He established the capital of Fouta Jalon in Timbo. At this point, so Fouta Jalon is presently located in Guinea in West Africa, and it's the home of the Fulani people who my sister has chosen to come up. Yeah. They are people who you would look at them and you would say, oh, maybe they might be. Yeah, you have to stand. Yes, they wear the painted faces, and they have long braids. They're very beautiful people. You would think they might be like from the Sudan area. So, and since the 17th century, yes, and since the 17th century, the Fouta Jalon has been a stronghold of Islam, and it's been a center for learning. The Muslims, neighboring tribes would actually send their sons to this region to be educated in the sciences, in agriculture, in languages. and they were a center of trade. So everyone was there. It was a prospering town, village, region, yeah, bustling. Okay, young men, advance. From scholar and leader to a captive. So at the age of 12, Prince went back to Timbuktu. He studied law, he studied philosophy. He was learned in 4 or 5 languages. He also spoke English and Arabic. And after he finished his learning, he went back to Futa Jalon and joined his father's army, and he was a leader in the army. And about the age of 26, next slide, fast forward, young man, click the button. Oh, wait a minute, yeah, back up. Back up. Yes, so as told to Thomas Gallaudet, and some of you may be familiar with him, Gallaudet University in DC, but I make reference to him, and we'll tell you about him later. But around 1788, at the age of 26, the prince was sent on a mission. He was successful. His mission was, some of the neighboring tribes were interfering with their trade on the Atlantic coast. And he was sent there to battle them. He was successful. On his return, he was actually accosted and kidnapped by his rivals, sold to a British slave ship, and after surviving the Middle Passage, there was a stop in Dominica, a stop in New Orleans, and there he was purchased to become a field hand on a Natchez, Mississippi plantation. Uh-oh. We all know about Natchez, Mississippi. Okay, next slide, young men. So you might, okay, next slide, forward. From auction block to Foster Fields, and maybe the only one in this room who knows about Foster Fields would be, Foster Plantation would be Lucille, but she's shaking her head. So anyway, so in New Orleans, the prince and another one of his soldiers in his army, Jamba, and what does Jamba mean? Do you know Jamba? Okay, so one of his other soldiers, they were sold to Thomas Foster, and he was a struggling tobacco farmer in Natchez for $930. He was, Foster's plantation was a mere, and I guess to us it's a lot, but at that time it was a mere 1,000 acres. His home was a one-room block house where his family and his mother lived. He was basically a struggling farmer. And when the prince got there, he said, "This place is uncivilized as compared to his bustling Futa Jalon." He suffered the indignities of slavery. The Muslim Fulani tribe had long braids. He had to cut his braids. He concluded he was more educated than Thomas Foster, who was the same age as he was, 26 at the time. He was more educated than this man. He spoke all the languages. He walked with nobility. The other slaves knew that he was a prince, and he was a leader to them. And now he's having to actually farm and do manual labor, something that was foreign to him. Forward, young men. Next slide. After repeated attempts at escape, he settled into a life of being a common slave. He worked the tobacco and cotton fields and indigo crops, but he maintained his Islamic faith. He fasted, he did his prayer, even though, and I don't know how this was possible, but he still maintained his Islamic faith, and Foster was not aware of this. But because of the prince's knowledge that he learned in Timbuktu and agriculture, and because cotton was a crop that they grew in Fouta Jalon, Mississippi became the cotton king. And one of the reasons I think it's because the prince's knowledge. Foster's tobacco farm, he switched to cotton, he got more slaves, he bought more property, he became one of the top selling and wealthiest men in Natchez, thanks to the prince. By 1794, the prince married Isabella. They had 5 sons and 4 daughters. And, okay, go on to the next slide. Yeah, you don't have anything to say. Next slide, young men. Sweet potatoes. Now, if y'all are descendants of the Flemings, y'all know about them sweet potatoes. Yes, you know about the sweet potatoes. So Ibrahim, he had a position of authority on the plantation. As I said, the other slaves respected him. He was a leader because he had been a leader in his father's army. So he was given lots of freedoms by Foster. And Foster said, you know what? You can go ahead and grow your little garden, and now I'm gonna let you go down to Washington. All right. That's right up the road there in Natchez. If y'all listen to Ma, that's our grandmother. But he went up to Washington and was selling some sweet potatoes. And lo and behold, one day as he was selling his sweet potatoes, Dr. John Cox happened upon him. He was an Irishman who his family had cared for back in Timbo, who had been lost in the woods at some point, but his family cared for him and brought him back to health. And he looked around and said, Prince, what are you doing here in Natchez? Selling sweet potatoes. And he said, I'll just have you know, many years from now, my family gonna be eating sweet potatoes all the time. But anyhow, so next slide. So at this point, Cox now goes to Foster, hey, please, this man is a prince. And I neglected to tell you, but because the prince was in the manner that he acted, Foster would call him prince because he actually said, look, my family will buy my ransom, get me out of here. And at this point, Foster is like, look, you're too valuable to me. So Cox begged and offered more money to buy the prince, to get him free. And Foster said no. So eventually, Cox worked at this year after year after year. He failed. Eventually, Cox died. His son is now working, trying to get his freedom. Everyone now, because Cox had been communicating with folks in Natchez, now everyone in Natchez is aware that this man is a prince. A newspaper guy, he says, look, write down your story, and I'm going to see if I can get it up to the folks in D.C. to help you out. So eventually word got to Henry Clay, who was Secretary of State at the time, and President John Quincy Adams, that look, this man is a prince. They thought he was from the Moors, and they had, at this point, there was a treaty between the U.S. and the Moroccan country, so they didn't want to upset Morocco, and they were like, look, we got to get this man out of here. Prince let them believe that he was Moroccan so that he could get his freedom. Now, Foster is one of the wealthiest planters in Mississippi, in Natchez. Foster, at this point, Prince is 60 years old, so Foster's like, okay, you can get out of here. But guess what? You got to leave immediately because I don't want a free man walking around, a free black man walking around in Mississippi, and would cause the other slaves to want their freedom as well. So at this point, Ibrahim went up to D.C., visited the folks in Gallaudet University, wanting to raise money to free his family. He only raised enough money for his wife, and on January 21st, 1829, the prince and his wife boarded a ship and headed back to Africa. He was able to raise money once he got home to bring 2 of his sons back. He died July 6th at the age of 67. Okay, next slide, young men. Foster died that same year. And his slaves, because now mind you, 2 of Prince's sons, 5 of his daughters, and all of his grandchildren are in Natchez. Are we seeing any of his descendants in this room? Mm-hmm. So his slaves were inherited by his children. Y'all might be familiar with some of his descendants. Governor Mike Foster. Some of his slaves were purchased by Angus McNeil. So now this is where our line comes in. Lucille McNeil, and we have it documented, is the great-grandmother of our Lucille Fleming. Lucille McNeil, and yes, and obviously that is where the name Lucille comes from because it's used throughout the family tree. Lucille McNeil had 2 children, Henry Fowles and Arshel Fowles Bland. Arshel is the mother of Irma Bland Fleming, our Lucille's mother. And the story has it that Irma's brother, Uriah Bland, told his grandchildren, we descended from a prince. Current DNA ancestry information suggests that Henry Fowles' descendants have told me that their DNA was traced to Timbo. Next slide. So are we royal? I say we are. Here's our Lucille Fleming when she was much younger. Here is her mother, Irma Bland Fleming. And we have Arshel Fowles Bland, Lucille McNeil, and perhaps our 5th or 6th great-grandfather. Say his name for me.
So,
he's going to.
Arabic that says Ismuhu, his name is Abdul Rahman.
Yes. So that's. Are we royal? Yeah, all the royal people stand. Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. We're all the royals. Yes. Yes.
Thank you, girl. And we're going to have a videotape of all this.
He first told me this story. If you look at the prince's forehead, you can see that same forehead.
You look like
that's a true story and a powerful find. Tell them about your cousin, your other cousin, the young lady, your other cousin that told you what this stuff too.
Oh, well, nothing. No, it's just that, and the prince maintained his, it's this little tidbit. The prince maintained his Islamic faith. When he was at Gallaudet University, he told the Reverend Gallaudet asked him to write a copy of the Bible or write something in the Bible, but he chose to write it. So he's writing in the Bible, and actually Gallaudet is telling folks, he's still a good Christian. Look what he's written. But it was only years later when I guess Gallaudet told somebody to read it, and what it said, he'd written the first book of the Quran.
Go on, Michelle.
Whoop, there it is.
Whoop, there it is.
Yeah.
God loves to sing. And a few years ago when we experienced a flood in 2016, sitting in a FEMA trailer, Tyson wrote a song actually entitled Road to Riches. And at this time, both of my children would love to perform it for you all live.
I'm on my road to riches, ain't no one stopping me. I gotta go and get it, so many doubting me. Remember them times I ain't had a dime. Gotta stay focused, stay on my grind. I'm on my road to riches. gotta go and get it. So many doubted me. Remember the times I ain't have time. Gotta stay focused, stay on my grind.
I feel like I'm Kevin Gates. I'm gonna make them believe. I know that these people hate because I'm chasing my dream. I gotta represent for my team. We gon' ball like Levine. I'm on a mission for the cream. I can't let nothing else get between. Monday through Sunday, we getting it. I really come from the trenches. We and you are totally different. Master P, I see no limit. I wanna pull up in a foreign. Most of these rappers boring. They say they big, we ginormous. I'm tryna ball Michael Jordan. They used to laugh and they used to hate. I'm smiling in my face, probably wanna take my place. I'm just tryna be great, put a meal up on my plate. Make sure my life for me is great. Make sure my life for me is great. For my fans, I'm sorry for the wait. Dedication and ambition, that's all it's gonna take. We started from the bottom. Shout out to Dre, Tyson LeVar, taking over the whole stage.
Ain't no one stopping me. I gotta go and get it. So many doubted me. Remember the times I ain't have time. Gotta stay focused, stay on my grind. I'm on my way to riches. Ain't no one stopping me. I gotta go and get it. So many doubted me. Remember the times I ain't have time. Gotta stay focused, stay on my grind.
Yeah, I gotta stay up on my grind. Tyson LeVar, Tyson LeVar, Tyson LeVar. BG4L, BG4L. Tyson LeVar, Tyson LeVar, Tyson LeVar. Alrighty.
Looks so beautiful. But I think we have, what about 12 souvenirs, little gifts that we like you guys who came dressed in your beautiful Egyptian attire. And I'm just going to call out my first one, and we'll take turns, okay? So the very first one I want to is Mr. Jared. He looks so nice in his beautiful Egyptian costume. Let's give him a round of applause. While Jasmine sent him out, the next one, I'm going to say just, wow, she looks so stunning when she first walked in and I noticed her. Miss Faisa, all the way from Atlanta, Georgia.